The Hype House show has it all. Trauma, bang energy, burnout, and terrible work-life balance.
That's it. That's my intro.
Hi, I'm Amanda. You're watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about a show that I thought had been canceled by Netflix, the Hype House show on Netflix. Honestly, thank you to Netflix for dropping this quietly. I had heard nothing about the show coming out, aside from a TikTok about posts that Nikita Dragon posted on her Snapchat, or Instagram story, not Snapchat, Instagram story about it. I thought the show was canceled. I had been told it was canceled. I had been told Netflix didn't know why any of these people were famous and didn't want to work with them anymore. That's what I had heard. But lucky for me, it was dropped on Netflix yesterday, mostly quietly. Like, it wasn't, I had to search for this show. It wasn't promoted that I could see. It wasn't in new releases. It was just dropped quietly. But then also, this isn't something that I would probably normally watch on Netflix, so that could be why it wasn't shown to me. I watched the whole show in one day. They're pretty short episodes. It's like 30 minutes. As far as substance goes, I don't think there's enough substance for you to think that this is going to be like difficult to binge through. I think that the main problem with this show is that there's too many people, but I also think that they needed this many people to try to fill the runtime. Without this many people, I don't think any of them would have had the ability to run their own show. And so the dynamics, if we can even call them that, and the very basic drama that boils down to let's have a conversation and fix this, that was unnecessary for most of it. They tried to force story arcs onto most of these people when there was very little growth.
I filmed this before this article from NBC News came out where both Lorray and Chase said that some of the storylines were fabricated. Specifically, Lorray took issue with the fact that they claimed that he went to parties while he had COVID. He says that's not true. He claims that the producers and Netflix fabricated that storyline because of the stuff that was cut out with Sienna May after her allegations and how they had to cut everything that she was involved in. Despite her being in some of the early promotional images, she was not in this show whatsoever. So all of her stuff was cut. So they're alleging that a bunch of stuff was fabricated in order to fill the runtime. And even then, if that is the case, the tea sucks. It's bad tea. Whoever wrote this fabrication was bad. It's not good. Anyway, just wanted to address that real quick here.
And the show overall was incredibly sad and depressing. I am a content creator. I'm a content creator out here in LA. My experience is drastically different from theirs, and I am nowhere near the size of any of these people. But I know what I like about my job. I know what I love about it. And these people just seem to routinely try and beat me over the head with a bang energy that being a content creator sucks. And everyone is trauma, which I mean, hey, same. Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to the trauma dumping that just seemed to kept like happening every single episode. And well, trauma dumping is not the right word. I shouldn't say that. That's not what it was. It was forced characterization. But like, I'm not knocking any of these people who shared their experiences or shared the stuff that they've been through. I'm not knocking that, and I don't want it to seem like that. It's just the way that it was done within the show is very much one date on The Bachelor, and suddenly I'm telling you about how my ex-husband was hit by a bus. Hi, my name is Bradley. I have a fear of tractors because my wife was run over by a tractor. Like, that's what it felt like watching this show sometimes. Like, they're having a very mild argument, and then someone sharing, like, how terrible their father was. It was like, it was a little wild, and we'll get more to that later because that is a interesting discussion we can have about social media and your personality being your job, what is comfortable to and to not share, and those choices that you can make for yourself. Because I do think that these people in their content have kind of got, I don't want to say forced sterilization because that's not the right word, but it's like the family friendly packaging. So you can only be the super fun, happy person all the time. And then this show was the antithesis of that, where it's like, oh no, we're real people and we're all miserable. So, okay, let's talk about the Hype House before we talk about the Hype House show. How about that? So the Hype House is the very first TikTok collab house. They are not the first collab house. They are the first TikTok collab house. And it's kind of like Team 10 in that they all kind of shuffle through some people. They add people, people leave. But there's the core group of like 3 dudes mainly who are the main people. And why are you not staying focused? Thank you. The real life of a content creator. There's the three main people. And what I thought was interesting is for the amount of name dropping that Thomas did, that Chase Lil Huddy did, that some of the other people did. The name that never got brought up, which I thought was interesting, was Daisy Keech. And she was one of the main opening starters of Hype House. I think she was the first one to have like a real blowout leave and then went on to, I think, form Clubhouse and all of that. They speak of Clubhouse later, but they don't mention her, which I thought was interesting considering they have no problem bringing up Addison Rae and the D'Amelios, which I was like, oh, if I was them, I'd be annoyed you kept my name in your mouth this much. I think at one point in the first episode, I knew things were going to be interesting at the very least because Thomas said that Hype House is the reason that Addison Rae and Charlie and Dixie are as big as they are.
We've launched people like Charlie and Dixie and Addison.
Ooh, I blatantly disagree with that, Thomas, but okay. The main three is Thomas, who was formerly of Team 10, is like the main, let's go with the father figure, the manager of Hype House, essentially. The main business mind, I would say, behind Hype House, or at least that's how it's portrayed. Then you have Chase, Lil Huddy, and he's on the outs. He's the black sheep of the Hype House at the start of the show. And by the end of the show, I kept forgetting he was involved whatsoever, because there would be like almost a full episode where it'd be like, where's Chase? And then you have Alex Warren, who I have slightly some side opinions of pre-Hype House. I actually briefly met Alex at VidCon, him and Cobra, I met him briefly, because Lissa was actually friends with Alex because he helped her not get crushed at TanaCon. And I was actually supposed to interview him for my TanaCon 1 year later video. And I was nobody back then. He was much smaller then, again, pre-Hype House. But he ghosted me on the interview for the TanaCon 1 year later video. When I say ghosted, I don't mean like I'm in his DMs and he's never replied. I mean, we actually set up interview times to go on a video call and do the interview about his experience as being associated with TanaCon and his experience with the shutdown. And he just stopped replying and then would be like, oh, sorry, I was busy. And then eventually stopped replying. So I don't like that. I don't like flaky people. And he gave Nikita shit for being flaky at one point. And I was just like, hey, screw you. People can grow and change. But I mean, that's my experience with Alex Warren. But he's one of the main three for the guys for the Hype House now. So that's basically who the Hype House is. They are mainly TikTokers. They all do kind of their own thing. But then they have the main Hype House TikTok. And so much of the conflict of this show is around the main Hype House TikTok page, it seems. Not, oh, I'm not featured on it enough, or I'm not gaining enough followers. No, they literally have the barest of bare minimums that they need to do for the main Hype House TikTok page, and most of them refuse to do it. Thomas, like I said, is like the head business mind of things. He's basically the head of the house. I'm fairly certain he's the oldest, unless you count Nikita. And Nikita isn't living with them or anything like that. And then there's also Lorraine, who is not living with them, but is associated with them and is associated with the show and all of that. And then Chase, who, again, everyone lives in the same house except for Chase. He recently bought a house. And at one point they call it Cheesecake Factory. His house does look like if you found a 12-year-old and said, buy a mansion you think a rich person would live in, and then this is the house that they bought. Although I will say that the creature from the Black Lagoon pinball machine that he has is rad as hell and I want it. It looks so cool. But you know, the house is insane looking. He really was just like, money. And it's probably like a $10 million house. Like I should look up how much the house is on Zillow or something, because I'm sure I could find it. But yeah, no, it's a little insane. But he's on the outskirts because he bought his own house and he's trying to do music and he's barely making TikToks anymore. And my view with that, I disagree with everything Thomas said. I think that's the smartest thing Chase Hudson can be doing. So Lil Huddy, Chase Hudson, is a former member or is a member of Hype House and is now making music, trying to be an actor, doing all this other stuff. And so his whole thing was like, I'm stopping making TikToks. I'm not making as many TikToks so I can focus on music. And he kept saying it was so he could focus on the album and all the work that goes into that. And so he's not sacrificing the creative energy for that. Smart on one hand, I understand that. The other hand, I think that's the smartest thing to do is when you are a social media star and you kind of start drifting off and doing other things, especially with music, the smartest thing you can do is pull back and almost become anti-social media to a certain degree. I think that an example of someone who did this really well, I think, is Shawn Mendes. He was part of MagCon, and most of the MagCon guys, they don't really have great connotations associated with them for the most part, or are even relevant anymore. And then Shawn obviously is now considered a musician. He's not considered, the former TikToker or the former Vine star or whatever. He was never on TikTok. He's not a MagCon guy anymore, he's just Shawn Mendes. And I think that a lot of that has to do with how he pulled away from social media. So I think personally, Chase, smartest thing you could be doing is that. I also have to physically stop myself from being harsher on Chase in general, especially in the context of the show, because he looks like my little brother with dark hair. Freaks me out. My brother is probably his height and blonde, and he looks so much like Chase, it stresses me out because Chase is doing something and I'm just like, do better. So I have to physically stop myself from being a big sister. It's really weird. These people get to live in a mansion for free. Free meaning they have a brand deal to pay for their rent. Their brand deal is so insanely easy. I don't get how they don't do it. 8 videos a month on TikTok for Bang Energy or featuring Bang Energy. And it's not like they have to be like Bang Energy. Like they don't really have to do that. They just have to have Bang in the video. That's at least how they made it sound. And they get their rent paid for. 8 videos. I make at least 4 to 8 videos a month on average, full-length videos on YouTube, okay? I can do that. It's paying my rent, but not in the way that this is paying their rent. Most of these people can't even do that. It's a problem from the first episode to the last episode, is their inability to commit to doing this very basic thing to pay their rent and live rent-free, as in if I were to live in the Hype House, if I did my part, I would not have to pay rent in this mansion. And some of them can't even do that. They're just like, I don't want to. Okay, leave. Goodbye. Eviction. Thomas, be an adult. You want to be the boss? You want to be everyone's friend? You got to pick one. Evict some of these people. I'm not even kidding. Like they're bragging about how much money they're making. And it's like, I have so much money a 21-year-old who never know what to do with. Okay, go pay rent then. Go get your own apartment. If you want to live in a mansion, you have to work for it. Like, oh God, this is... Oh God, I wanted to grab some of these TikTok template boys and shake them full body and just be like, dude, pick up your phone. They're lounging around. I'm so bored. Do your job. Oh my God. They have the slackers and then the burning the candles at both ends. I'm not going to go through beat by beat the plot points of these episodes, mainly because it was pointless. It's not worth it. It's not worth my time or your time for me to do that. And again, I don't think anything was ever really resolved. Like there was a point where it seemed like a very important conversation between Lorray and Nikita, where Lorray was like sharing how he feels about people being like, you're friends with Nikita and she does, blackfishing and things like that. And you are condoning it because you're friends with her. And so he had a conversation with her. And it seemed like nothing was resolved. And she was like, yeah, well, my skin tone just kind of does that in some of those photos. And he's literally standing there and saying, I know you don't look like the way you do in some of these photos you post. Like, I see you when these photos are taken. Then she's like, it's just filters. And then it's like, nothing's resolved. And I'm like, wait a minute, can we go back to that conversation? Especially because Nikita posted on her Snapchat story or Instagram story, I kept it 100. I know who's real and who's fake. I was expecting scalding hot tea from this show. We did not get that. I don't think we saw any real or fake, none of that. I think Nikita had one goal in mind, and it was get in as many episodes as possible, because the entire time it was like, here's the pot. Here's Nikita. Like, she kept things going. I'll say that. There would be no plot progression with any of these 20-somethings if it weren't for Nikita, because she would be like, I heard this happen, and like, just stir the pot to be there. And it's like, you know what? Do it. Why not?
Should we talk about Larry being COVID positive and having no decency and calling me every single day thinking I'm ignoring him? But actually I'm so mad because his entire manager said the only reason why he was going to the party was to pick me up because I was so drunk.
My main criticism with this show, with these people in this show, I shouldn't say, this isn't a show issue, because it's not really, I mean, we can blame editing, but I think editing was trying to have fun with it. Some of the editing in this show was very entertaining. The music choices were also very on the nose sometimes. I am a firm believer that influencers, content creators especially, are terrible at participating in hustle culture while also thinking they are not a part of hustle culture, grind culture. I think that when your personality is your job, it's very hard to develop a work-life balance. And at one point, Alex shares that, and Alex just seemed to be having a meltdown half of the show. The problem that I think a lot of these people on this show have, particularly Alex, is that they seem to think that it's an all or nothing mentality where it comes to social media. Alex and Thomas multiple times talk about being overwhelmed. Alex at one point is routinely talking about how he is just constantly trying to make bigger and bigger videos. His views are going down, not steep, but they're going down, freaking out about numbers and all of that. That's normal. I do it too. I overanalyze my numbers. The thing that I think doesn't help, and what I think was the main issue here, is the all or nothing mentality where it's like the numbers start going down and then they immediately start freaking out about what else are you gonna do. So much of these people's lives, I think, could be fixed if they understood what the concept of a healthy middle was, because it really does seem, again, like they are the slackers who do nothing and refuse to do nothing.
They were behind on all the brand deals, we're behind on everything, but then they all come cry to me when the business isn't doing well and they're not doing as well.
And then the people who are burning it at both ends, the workaholics who are miserable but also think they can't do anything else. And I do think there is a middle ground there. I mentioned this on TikTok when I shared this, and someone said, well, some of these people could have managers who are forcing them to make this type of content. The thing about the Hype House is that it wasn't started by a manager. Sure, it's started by Thomas, and Thomas is the one dude. But they are very much, it seems, actively against having management because of how the other hype houses and the other collab houses within TikTok have fallen apart. A lot of them have been started by management companies and fall apart because of that, or because they were cutting costs to keep costs down. And then you have the Hype House where it just kind of seems it's like, oh no, we were friends first, but we also have to be a business, you know? And then that's where the problems come in. There's gonna be problems regardless. I think there's gonna be problems regardless when you have unsupervised, barely college-aged people with tons of followers and a shit ton of money. I think there's always going to be problems with that. You could have the most mature group of 20-somethings and there's going to be an issue somehow, especially if you give them like a camera. I think there's going to be an issue. There isn't anyone forcing these people to make content at this regard, at this stage. The thing about a lot of these people is that a lot of YouTubers and a lot of content creators in general have a growth at any cost mindset. If you're not going up, then you're going down. And it does seem like Alex was at that point where maybe he was plateauing, not going down. Because again, we're not being shown the numbers he's speaking of. We just see how he's speaking about them. So, I mean, my understanding is if they're not going down, it's probably plateauing and he sees that as not going up. And that's normal. Plateaus are normal. Content goes through rises and falls. You can't constantly be going up. That's just not plausible, okay? It's gonna be slowed down at a certain point. But like there's just all these points where it seems like Alex is actively trying to do more and more and more. And he seems unhappy with where his numbers are at and where they are going. And so he keeps trying to do more. And then he does something that he's not even happy to do. Like he's miserable in seeming most of the content that he's doing. He's just only looking at it from the perspective of, will this get views? And then when it doesn't do as well as he expects, he just slips further and further down into like I'm using his own words, like a depressive episode, like he's feeling depressed. There's one point where he is going too hard and then hurts his ankle and then like can't walk for like 2-3 days and is freaking out because the following day is a posting day basically. And he's just really upset about that. The way he spoke to Cover a couple of times, I was like, this is not healthy. This isn't good. And I just think that like the answer to so much of this could be hiring more help. Same goes with Thomas. Like there's one point where he's like, either I am doing everything or I am shutting down Hype House. There comes to a point at the end of the first season, maybe only season, where Thomas decides that like maybe it's time to shut down Hype House because everyone's drifting apart. It's really cliquey. No one's doing what they're supposed to be doing. He's burning the candle at both ends and he just doesn't think he can put up with it anymore. And he thinks that the answer is to shut down Hype House. He seems to have made up this decision like, I'm gonna shut it down. And then there's a prom that Nikita throws at Hype House because she never got to have prom as Nikita before she transitioned. And so they're going to have prom. He sees everyone together and he's like, maybe it's not time to shut down Hype House yet. It's not time. And then it cuts forward to 6 months after they finished filming. And it turns out that Alex and Cover have moved out. And they just said it didn't make sense for everyone to live in the house together anymore. So Alex and Cover moved out. I would say that Thomas and Alex had like the least amount of problems. And like Cover and Mia, Thomas's girlfriend, were the only girls actively living in the house at the time. So, I mean, obviously something went down and they just didn't share it. But yeah, so that's like where it is. So it's like 3 separate locations basically is the end. But then also Chase has more or less left Hype House in the final episode because he's like, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And there's like kind of a nice moment and Alex is just actively being like, so do we kiss now? What's going on? Which is like that. Someone's like, you're not in Hype House, but like we're still friends whether you're in Hype House or not, which I think would have been better received and a better episode if it weren't like there wasn't a problem with Chase being on the outs half of the season, most of the season. But Thomas never seems to have like voiced to anyone that he was thinking of shutting down Hype House. Like they never have the conversations like, yeah, I was going to shut things down. I think that should have been something he should have done. He should have sat everyone down, or at least sat Chase and Alex down and been like, look, I think it's time. I think I'm going to step away from Hype House or I'm going to shut it down. And then obviously it would have fizzled out and all of that. And that would have been one thing. And it's not that cut and dry. They have the Bang Energy deal. I'm sure there's a timeline on that. I'm sure it's not a month-to-month thing. I'm sure there's a bunch of other brand deals and stuff in place for Hype House. And, you know, it wouldn't have been as simple as just like, I'm shutting things down and then that night everyone's gone the next night. I don't think it would have been that simple. But I mean, they just kind of phrased it really weird. I think they could have played that out better. With literally both Thomas and Alex, it's like some of these things could be answered by hiring people to help you. It's like, you're not paying for rent, so you have all this money. And Alex at one point, I think he said he was spending something close to like, on average, 40 grand a month towards the channel, which I think is insane. And I don't think that's the actual number. It can't be. My soul will not take it. But it's like, these people have money to hire people. If I have the money to work with William, hi William, come say hi. I think you have the money to hire an editor or two, or a business manager. I get if there is, with what you've seen with the other content houses, if you have hesitation with working with a management company, but there is a way to work with managers without signing over your life. I have a manager, I had one and we swapped ones and I have a different manager, you know, like there's ways to work with companies and ways to work with people without signing over entire control. And I think that that's something that maybe should be considered if you want to maintain your mental health, because obviously doing everything is not healthy. Like some of you had assistants, or at least Chase did. Chase had a manager, and maybe it was just Thomas. Maybe none of these people did have individual managers. See, this is the thing. It's like there's certain things about the content creator experience that I do think are interesting to people. And then you have this kind of very specific structured narrative. And then the narrative that we are given is everything is miserable, everything is awful. And the answers could seriously just be literally hiring an editor, hiring someone to help you film, hiring someone to help you with content ideas, hiring someone to do X, Y, and Z. Who was it that had a manager earlier on, or a assistant early on that was helping with content? Was that Lorraine? That may have been Lorraine. Someone had a manager or an assistant early on that was helping come up with content ideas. But again, I just think that there are ways to build your team to help you. They work for you. You don't have to give up control by hiring people. You are not losing. You are not tapping out by working with people. You are not a slacker because you work with people. And that's one of the things I have spoken with other YouTubers who, when I share that I have a editor, they give me weird looks. Like they give me a hard time about it. I don't give a shit. I like sleep. I like being able to do things and not be miserable 24/7. And that's why William is wonderful. There's ways to work with people and so you can like your job. And I just don't get why none of these people seem to be doing it. Cover seemed to have a consistent issue with the work-life balance. And by work-life balance, I mean with Alex's filming everything for content. And she has starting to have troubles distinguishing what is for the vlog and what is for the relationship or just real life. Makes sense. At one point they got fake married and they filmed it and she was like really into it because she really wants to get married, and he was just doing it for the vlog and kept saying it's a fake wedding, it's not real. And it's like, you aren't even happy about what you're doing. Like he seems miserable most of the time they were filming. And it's like, dude, this was your idea. I think maybe your problem, Alex, is that if you made content that you would be interested in doing versus what you think would get views, you would have a better time. Should we talk about the myriad of trauma that just seemed to get pulled out? Everyone is trauma. everyone. That's fine. I just think that the way that it was shared throughout this season was very, whew, damn, I just got beat in the face with your daddy issues, you know? Like, that's what it kind of felt like. Alex shared about him having an alcoholic mother. Same. His dad passing away. Mia at one point was sharing about how people, they go to Joshua Tree one night. She was like upset and sharing about how she was upset that Thomas was upset that no one's doing their content. And Lorraine kind of like snapped at her, was like, this is the most dumb conversation. Why are we having this? And then she snapped at him. And he did have the greatest line. He was like, I don't know if she's all hyped up because she's Thomas's girlfriend or because she's Aaliyah. That made me laugh. That was a good line. That was a good delivery. Nikita and Lorraine are talking about it. And then Mia comes over to like apologize, hugs him. And then it's like, they discuss, I'm sorry, I got heated. And then it's like, yeah, just because of stuff with my dad. And then it just starts spiraling about stuff with her dad.
I didn't realize how hard of your life was. I thought you were a white picket fence bitch.
I think that there is, well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this because I think, let's say it wasn't them. Let's say it wasn't everyone involved in the show. And let's say it was the producers or the behind the scenes people at Netflix that are like, share what you're about. Because I think the thing with, again, being a content creator, maybe with some of these people, is that they're kind of packaged as family friendly as you can be in a sense, or as brand friendly as you can be. And a lot of times personal issues and personal trauma and personal family baggage is not a part of that. So it kind of feels like a floodgate being opened when you were given the opportunity to share about that. And then it's kind of like trying to stuff toothpaste back into a tube where it's like, I'm already sharing all of this, let's just get it all out. And I do think that this could have opened up a discussion more about what are you comfortable with sharing about yourself online, and you don't really know anyone that you watch that's a content creator or anything like that because you're seeing such a small part of their lives. How they package it, you are seeing a small portion of their lives, and even then it's an edited portion of their lives. I like to say that you guys see maybe 10% of my personality. That's probably all you ever will see. And even if I were on a show like this, I would be like, I'd probably be like Charlie and barely say 2 words. Charlie was in like the first and second episode at Chase's house. She didn't speak a whole lot, which I mean, if I was her, I'd also just be like, hello. I'm amplifying the show by being here. So I'm not knocking any of them for sharing their own experiences or sharing the stuff they've been through. I just felt like this show could have definitely handled it better. So it was less of a sucker punch when one of them shared something personal about themselves or lined it up with like that very inconsequential drama that was happening at that time. Should we talk about the Vinnie stuff? We should talk about the Vinnie stuff. What I did think was interesting is, so this was filmed at the end of 2020, it seems like. It was either filmed at the end of 2020 at the start of 2021 because Vinnie is talking about how it's in May, the boxing match between him and Deji, and how he was going to start training for that. So it was filmed sometime in 2020 and start of 2021 because the fight was in May. Went to that. Yay. What I thought was interesting is that they didn't talk about Rylan fighting at all. Rylan was actually supposed to fight in the boxing match. He was actually supposed to fight Tanner Fox, who's a YouTuber. And then there was some bullshit the day of, and then they didn't end up fighting because Tanner was pulling out. Don't know if they ever ended up fighting, but now that I've seen Rylan on the show, I had never heard of Rylan prior to this. Never heard of Rylan prior to that. I do think he would have at least had fun beating the shit out of Tanner. I don't know who would have won that, frankly, because apparently he just like gets drunk and pops off. We didn't really see any of that. And for the amount of times that Vinnie was like, I'm raging right now, no one threw a punch. We needed a good cat fight. We needed something to make this show interesting. Nikita did what she could to stir the pot, but I don't think anyone really committed to making this an entertaining show because everyone wanted to be seen as the wholesome, hardworking person that they are. But life sucks. You know, like I think that we needed someone to take one for the team and flip a table. But what I did think was interesting was the differences in how Thomas treated Chase versus Vinnie. Because they're similar in age. Chase obviously came up with Hype House and Vinnie is new to Hype House.
Vinnie's an 18-year-old who's like a nerd trapped in a hot, sexy summer boy's body.
Vinnie is the hot thing on TikTok. But Thomas kept going to Vinnie and being like, I know when you're the hot thing, everyone kind of starts taking advantage of you and I don't want you to feel that way. So he lets Vinnie get away with a lot and like lets him hide out in his room and stream and do his own thing and not be a part of the Hype House stuff. And then the other guys in the house are like, well, I tried to film stuff with you and you were so upset, so I never asked you again. Thomas just seems to kind of let Vinnie do his own thing, but then at the same time, he's upset with Chase. for doing his own thing. And at one point he says to Vinnie, I kind of want this to be like Disney Channel where everyone leaves and goes on to bigger, better things. And that's literally what Chase was doing. Chase was going off and doing better things. He was going off and making music and doing the other things. Personally, my view of social media, and all of they seem to understand it, but they also don't seem to know how to deal with it, is this can be gone tomorrow. I joke about this all the time, where you guys could all hate me tomorrow. Hey, maybe this is the video to do it. Maybe you all hate me tomorrow. I don't know. Knowing that and taking steps to like prepare yourself for that are two different things. And I think all of them seem to know that that is a possibility of something that could happen. They all speak about being afraid of being canceled multiple times.
And once you get canceled as a person, your brand is then canceled. So that really screws up someone's like income and like life.
In a sense, they talk about that and how they've been canceled and how they've experienced hate and things like that. But they don't seem to have like a plan in place for a backup, or like, oh, what else would you want to do? And then you have someone like Chase who is actively setting up something else to do because that's what he wants to do. He wants to do music. And he seems to be bitched at for it by pretty much everyone. I do agree with what Mia said, because there was a point where Mia said, actually, I have a lot to say about this to Thomas in the confessional. They're in like a bus. They're in a school bus. Doesn't help the whole childlike behavior of some of this. And she's like, the way he left was so disrespectful. And they show clip of their reacting to it, but they had the camera, so I don't know why they didn't just show the clip of Chase saying, yeah, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna live with you guys. We're gonna use my house. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna be here all the time, but I'm gonna have the house. And then he like moved out and then had his manager ask Thomas to help pay for it, or was searching for houses in secret while saying he was going to live with them and all this other stuff. So I do think there is an element of disrespect there, especially when you're in business with someone. You owe that to share with them what your plans are. So I do think there is an element of respect that is required when you're in business with someone. But then again, when you have you're emphasizing the friend element of things, it's like, well, would they tell you that? I don't know. So the Vinnie stuff, like I said, he kept saying like, I'm raging. He would never share why he was raging in particular. The main thing that happened that was bad at one point, Alex needed content. And so he said, let's do a prank. Michael, I believe, is another Hype House member, and he has a girlfriend named Toddy. She's a sister or a twin that looks exactly like her. So Alex was going to do a prank where they call Michael in, and Vinnie was kissing the sister, not the girlfriend. So Vinnie and the sister kissed and then had the boyfriend walk in. Oh my god. And it's so quick. It's barely even a cheating thing, because if I walked in and saw a camera, I would also think I was being punked and that it was bullshit, and I'd just be annoyed that I had a camera in my face. Would not be like, oh my god, my girlfriend's cheating on me. Oh, Vinnie Hacker, same. You know, like I wouldn't do that. What ended up happening was that the girl who kissed Vinnie got death threats for being in the video for kissing Vinnie, and that a bunch of Vinnie's fans were pissed that he kissed someone else and were like, I'm gonna find out who this girl is, I'm gonna beat her ass, I'm gonna kill her, all these horrible things. And like, oh, she was crying the other night. Alex felt bad about it. Vinnie was upset about it, but it doesn't seem, I don't know, it didn't really seem like he was upset about it because she was getting death threats. It seemed like he was upset about it because he took that as like backlash over being canceled, sort of, but it wasn't that. It was, he was upset that people that considered himself his fans would act that way. And he did share that. He's like, I don't even consider those people my fans at that point. Who would do that? Why would you do that? And I agree. You shouldn't fucking do that. That's insane. If you think that it's okay to send death threats to someone because they kissed your fave, you need help. That's not okay. That's something you kind of need to look at. I see that more in fandom with like K-pop people, the One Direction people with 5 Seconds of Summer. I see that with a lot of people like that. What I did think was interesting about that, they showed like some of the messages. They blurred out the faces, but not the screen names, which makes me think that either the screen names are fake or all the messages are fake, or they're just, the editors need to figure out what their priorities are, you know? So there's a chance that your hate message to a girl is in a Netflix show. What I did think was funny was the moment where Nikita is like, oh yeah, I'm into Vinnie. And then Vinnie's like, I see her as like a sister. We have like a sibling relationship, which is funny. Again, so much of this is like inconsequential in hindsight. The Hype House TikTok is still running. You still can go and watch it. I was checking it last night. Most of them are talking about the show now. I'm fairly certain that's really all I can say. More than anything, I think some of these people need to get a spine, a work ethic, and then the others need to hire people to help them not go insane. because my goodness, this is unhealthy. And all in all, do I think you need to watch the Hype House show? No, not really. If you want to kill an afternoon or a day, go right ahead. I think you can live without it. I think that there was a way to do this and have it be entertaining. I don't think what we got was a way to, I don't know. I can't even say that there's potential here because like they kind of left the 6 months later bit is kind of like, yeah, we have the Hype House name, but like, no, it's not a thing anymore, you know? So it's like, how would you even go about making this interesting and if you were to do a season 2? See, what I really want to know is if the reason that Netflix decided that a Hype House show would be a good idea is because they saw the Hype House episode of Punk'd on Quibi. And they were like, oh yes, this is content. Because like, part of that was Addison Rae. She was the whole big person in that. I really want to know what this plan was here. I don't know if there's going to be a season 2. At the time of me recording this, I don't think it's been announced that there's going to be a season 2. And honestly, I don't know it's a reality TV show. It's not like there are certain shows where it's like, oh yes, this is an entertaining person and I want to see more of them. I think they showed us too many people. And then also the people that we were shown were too focused on like their view of how they thought they should be perceived, that they weren't excited to make an intriguing show or do something insane. Again, Nikita was just doing the pot stirring, but honestly, she kept the plot moving. So I can't fault her for that. Yeah, the prom bit was cute. That was sweet. I liked that. Did you watch the Hype House show? Do you want to watch the Hype House show? Do you also think that Chase's mansion looks like Cheesecake Factory? Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I have a podcast, the Swell Shenanigans Podcast. New episodes every Wednesday. Reminder, I have merch like that mug back there. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd also like to support me on Patreon, that'll be listed down below. If you'd like to follow me on my social media, that'll be all up here. And that's going to be it. Have a lovely day. Goodbye. If anyone from the Hype House does see this and you don't hate me, there is a chance you can hate me. That's always fine. I would love to make I Tried Joining the Hype House so you don't have to, and just documenting things as like a bit and just try to do what you think it takes to be a part of Hype House. I think that'd be an interesting video, but that's just me.
Thank you, Alan, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Cody, Colton, Crash PC, Destiny, Devin, Dirty One, Don, Elliot, Evan, Feckless, Hopeless, Hollow, Jacka, Ray, Joe, John, M, Jordan, Joseph, Kenny, Kevin, Kim, Kristen, Lauren, Lamb, Lex, Lisa, Luis, Matt, Matt O, Matthew S, Meme Lord the Red, Michael, Michael J, Nathaniel, Pat, Penn, Rob, Robert, Ross, Sam, Serena, Skylar, Simon, Tosh, Timothy, Tom, Wendy, William, Zendry.